Besides scales, one of the most essential elements of any warm-up routine on the violin or viola is to set up a reliable foundation. The exercise presented here is going to include setting up a good left-hand frame. There is also going to be some shifting and some left-hand finger independence action. So essentially we're going to be hitting 3 birds with 1 stone. Hey, this is Ina Langerman from Violinna.live, and in this video I'm going to break down the second exercise from the Daily Dozen by Dunas. It's mainly for more experienced players, and before you get started, I do recommend that you first do one of the finger independence exercises that I demonstrate in the video up here or in the description below. A lot of the concepts in some of those exercises are going to be used in today's, so I do recommend you try one of those first, doesn't matter which one. So first I'm just going to play a few measures of the second exercise from Dunas, just so you can hear it a little bit. Keeps going like that. So now we're just going to break it down into its elements so that you know how to practice it. Let's take a look what happens in the first measure. What I really like that Dunas did here is that he starts it from the 3rd finger. We're going to have this octave. I love that it starts with the 3rd finger because in order to set up a good left-hand frame, we need to center the weight right around that 3rd finger or in one of the middle ones. And I talk about it actually in my video on the left-hand frame. So let's take a look at what happens. In the top voice, we have quarter notes. And on the bottom voice, we have 8th notes. So what we need to learn how to do is how to coordinate those 2 voices. And first we're going to loop the first 2 pair of notes on the bottom voice while holding down that G octave. So we'll have the 3rd finger ready and just don't move it, leave it there, and we're just going to play the lower voice alone. So as you can see, I am not moving the 3rd finger. Then we'll do the same thing with the 4th finger, because the next beat of the first measure, we have the A on top. And you can check. Okay, ready? Now, right here we have an octave also, 1st finger and the 4th finger together. So again, just play the lower voice. It's very important with this exercise that the fingers lift and drop with a lot of energy, but also lightness. So you have a lot of energy going down, but then immediately release any of the tension, because it's going to, when you put down so much energy, what happens is you might end up getting stuck in the string. So we want to drop the finger and release the pressure right away. It kind of happens as one motion. If I was tapping on the instrument right here, similar idea, and release, right, like this. Okay, so for example, when we drop the 2nd finger and release, you can hear it, you can practice it so you can hear it. And also when we lift the finger, we also want just as much energy. A lot of times one can have very good finger drops, but sometimes I notice it's the lifts can be a little sloppy or a little bit weak, so we want to have just as precise action with the lifts, no matter which finger you're doing. So now what we need to do is coordinate this all. So there are 2 things we need to coordinate, and they both involve the 2nd and 4th fingers. When we go from beat 1 to beat 2, what happens is we need to put down the 4th finger and at the same time lift the 2nd finger. So it looks like this. So we play the first beat, we have this, then we have to do this. So pinky goes down, second finger goes up at the same time. This is a little tricky to do, so we want to just practice going back and forth like this and try to coordinate that the best we can. So now I'm going to put together beat 1 and beat 2. Switch them. So you see how I really focused on timing that. Let's try that again. Then, to go from beat 2 to beat 3, we have to also move the second and fourth fingers together, but this time, instead of alternating them, they're going to go at the same time. And what's even more difficult is that the first and third finger, they're not going to move. They are still going to remain on the string, so it makes it a little challenging. So we have 1 and 3 down. Now and before we lift them together, all 4 fingers are down. So on beat 2, we ended up like this at the end of beat 2. So we want to lift 4 and 2 together like this. So we want to practice this motion. And they're on this different strings as well. This exercise is similar to some of the things you might have seen in Dunas's first exercise in this series. So that's why he placed that one first, because it helps out with this one. So I'm going to play now beat 2 and beat 3. Okay, so do that a bunch of times. Let's put the entire measure together. Lift. Together. Okay, now the next thing we need to practice is the first shift. There will be 2 types of shifts here. The first one, we are going from a minor 6 interval. So we have second finger on G string, third finger on D string. We're going from this to an octave in second position. So the first finger is actually going to remain down. And this is a little bit unusual to do during a shift. Usually in a shift it's easier to have as few fingers on the fingerboard as possible. So we want to keep our fingers light and use that first finger to lead, and it's going to exchange that note B on the bottom. We're going to listen for that B exchange. We're going from this to an octave B. So I'll show this way so you can see on this side. And now we're in second position and we're ready for measure 2. It's the same idea as measure 1, except it's in reverse. We start with the octave, same thing with the different patterns. Now to go from second position to third position, we do another kind of shift. This time, instead of going up to an octave, we're actually going to keep both notes the same. And it's a dissonant interval, so we have to really pay attention to it. So the last note of measure 2, we have this major 7th interval. And I'm actually playing with the wrong fingers. It's supposed to be 2 and 4. And we're going to shift up to third position, which is going to have the exact same notes, but this time it's going to be on 1 and 3. And you can practice this one back and forth to really listen for that. Okay, and then the pattern continues. So now let's put together measure 1, 2, and 3. Then after this, we go back to first position and follow the same pattern on the next 2 strings. And it keeps going up. Now there are also some variations that Dunas puts in for this exercise. So once you feel comfortable with this one, you can try it a little faster, and you can also try one of the variations. And also, when you're practicing this, I recommend that instead of trying to do the entire exercise and kind of fumble your way through it, just pick a few measures and really break it down the way we just did here. This way you really get really good habits of coordinating and also really listening carefully. Alright, so if you have some other practice methods for this exercise or anything that's very similar to this, I would love to hear about it. Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it and was useful to you, please share it with a friend or a colleague. Sign up for my bi-monthly newsletter, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and happy practicing!